Alright, guys, today we're going to talk about the importance of measuring daily readiness. And so, with modern day stress and fatigue the way it is, this is going to be a topic that we should all listen very closely to. So, let me get my laser pointer ready because I'm going to need it. Modern day struggles. We've all read the stuff from Matveev, Bompa, Prilipin, but they performed their research in what I would consider utopian type conditions, meaning their athletes were in state sponsored programs, and so all they had to worry about was sleeping, eating, and training, and so not the case anymore. So when we program for people, we think about volume, intensity, average intensity, relative intensity, frequency. These are all tools for developing athlete periodization plans. But the thing is there's stress. That's what all of these things are just ways to stress the body to cause it to adapt. Nowadays, there's cell phones, laptops, tablets, wearables, social media. These things have absolutely changed the way that we have to do the game. And it's definitely, there's a lot of positives. Sometimes athletes are now using these things to monetize and, their skills, and therefore it makes their training a little bit easier. But all in all, it's not a good thing. So stress is thrown around, like candy at a carnival nowadays. All the time, we're getting pissed off and stressed out. So now the new social media issues, there's the fear of missing out. These are not things that I'm just talking. These are scientifically classified issues that are now, something that our children will have to worry about due to social media and just the way of the world. So fear of missing out, we're going to explain each of these later. Social media bullying, fatigue and stalking, online social comparison, we all know about that. And then there's the blue light effects on sleep, and then affecting sleep quality, circadian phase, and then specific sleep cycle durations. On top of typical stressors, of course, we still have school, and or work, relationships, exams. So the stress that you are prescribing is not the only stress that you need to account for. Fear of missing out. Twitter and Facebook, that is the news nowadays. It's coming at us all day long, and it's real time. If you want to know anything about the things going on, so if you want to know anything about Ukraine, what's going on with Russia, just get on Twitter, man, or Facebook, and you'll hear people yelling and screaming about it, and it's probably going to freak you out and get you upset. Guess what? That's stress. So then there's the social media stalking. This is the one that upsets me the most, I have to admit, because the thoughts of like our kids. I remember growing up, in the mountains of North Carolina, and having to deal with bullies, but nowadays you can't even get away from it. At least I could go home and like feel safe at my own house. Now these kids go home, you're hearing all the time of poor children like ending up hanging themselves at 13 years old because they're getting stressed out by what people are saying about them on Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever they're doing. So, and then there's the social media envy. This can be malicious if negative gossip, damaging the person or businesses involved. Most often turns into unpleasant feelings of envy due to pain, resentment, feelings of inferiority. It's sad when most of the money, good looks, fame, and talent are mostly fake. When you get to know people, and luckily I've had the fortune of meeting some of these people that you guys get to hang out or you get to watch on Instagram, and it looks like they live these glorious lives. And then when you meet them, you come to find out this is just what they want you to see. So it's really, social media is just another form of Hollywood. It's just these people are letting you, see what they want you to see. Social media fatigue. We're talking about mental exhaustion of users due to time spent on social media channels. So, the more you're on there, the more fatigue you're going to experience from being on social media. So then the frequency of posting, and so the frequency of posting and fear of missing out are potential causes, especially fatiguing when users perceive family or friends to have better lives and or experiences. Once again, that's silly because what you're seeing is only what they're letting you see. Then there's the effects of blue light on sleep and recovery. Let's talk about that. In Gradisar et al., that's 2013, 9 out of 10 Americans reported the use of technology within an hour before bed, with television being the most popular. And any light will affect sleep in a negative way, but blue light is quite a bit worse. But difficulty to fall asleep, unrefreshing sleep, and it's linked to fatigue, depression, and a decreased athletic performance. So not only are you going to worry about fatigue and stress, it actually hinders athletic performance. So something to consider. Let's understand fatigue before we get too deeper into this whole thing. So Taylor et al. In 2016 defines fatigue as reduction in one's ability to produce force. So it's easily measurable. When you have velocity devices, you look at, because force has a time component, mass times acceleration, you can simply see when there's a decrease in one's ability to produce a force, to produce a velocity, then that's a way to measure fatigue actually. So it's also associated with the neuromuscular pathway. So that's important, and you'll find out later on. So fatigue causes dysfunction throughout the nervous system, including the brain, spinal cord, sensory input, muscular output, even autonomic function. So stress and fatigue are clearly linked to injury for athletes. That was Lavallee and Flint, 1996. And so they also found that competitive anxiety and tension was linked to higher frequency of injury. But yet the anxiety, tension, anger, hostility, and overall bad movements were related to the severity of injuries. So stress is not just about you getting your athletes, in the best shape possible, or making sure that your, periodization plan works. It's about keeping these dudes healthy. And so as anyone out there who's been a coach of high-level athletes like myself, you know that the key to producing the top athletes is being able to coach those top athletes for a long length of time. So if you can keep someone healthy 4 or 6 years with good genetics, that's going to be your star player, because, I bet who knows how many athletes are out there who could have been better than the Michael Jordans or even the Bo Jacksons. They just couldn't stay healthy. So stress response. It's designed to give humans the ability to survive critical moments, such as like a car wreck, or if you're getting robbed. Acute influxes of cortisol provide the human body with increased strength, energy, and reserves to overcome intense moments. Like you've heard of the people when the car wrecks, that the mom is lifting the car off of the baby. So that's activating the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, and we're going to talk more about that. Hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. It's a mouthful. We're going to stick with calling it HPA axis. So the HPA axis consists of 3 glands belonging to the nervous and endocrine systems. There's the hypothalamus, which is located at the base of the brain, and it releases the corticotropin releasing hormone. We'll call it CRH. And attached to the hypothalamus is the pituitary gland. But the CRH travels to the anterior pituitary gland, causing the release of adrenocorticotropic hormone, ACTH. Now that travels down to the kidneys, and that causes the release of cortisol. So that is what causes, when you get into a fight or flight situation, this is the system that goes into action. Now the HPA functions to increase blood sugar. That's gluconeogenesis. And so it suppresses the immune system, aids in the metabolism of fat, protein, and carbohydrates for added energy during a crisis. And what it does, it just redirects all of that energy to, you being able to protect yourself or being able to handle this stressful situation. It also, for this, Acute use decreases bone formation and inhibits collagen production. So as you can see, it's only designed for acute use. It's definitely not, designed for chronic stress like we see nowadays, like with social media, providing us 24 hours a day of stress. Also, recovery is being inhibited with blue light emissions. So, you know, not only are we stressing more because of social media, we can't recover because of blue light emissions. So, let's look and see what we can do. So chronic stress due to social media and life leads to sickness and injury. Unchecked chronic stress leads to hypertension, heart disease, stroke, impaired communication between the immune system and HPA axis is linked to several physical and mental health issues. So obesity, chronic fatigue, diabetes, and several mental disorders. So this is not just about getting your athletes to be the top performers. This is about getting them healthy for the rest of their lives. So assessing daily fatigue to monitor outside stressors is a great way to lead athletes to teachable moments that might improve their lives for years to come, not just athletically, but for their health, so they can be there for the kids. So based on what we know now about stress and about the fact that our kids are now living in this social media world, I recommend you guys to consider assessing daily readiness with velocity using common lifts, and then RSI score is a reactive strength index that could work too. We're going to go in a later. We're going to talk about the actual implementation of assessing daily readiness. So we're going to go into all these in detail in a video and articles to come. So also recommend a subjective questionnaire to assess actual causes. So if you are seeing from velocity that there's a problem, and then you go look on someone's subjective questionnaire and they say they didn't sleep last night, or if they say they're having relationship issues, well then you can use that time to talk to your athlete, get closer, it's going to help you get buy-in. More importantly, you're going to be able to help that young man or woman. So it's a good thing. In conclusion, obviously go to gymaware.com or flexstronger.com and start assessing these dudes. Start looking at daily readiness. If you have any questions, please email me, travis@gymaware.com. I would love to set up a meeting and talk and answer all your questions. By the way, you guys can use code MASH5 for 5% off Gymaware or Flex Stronger. I've had the opportunity to work with any of these velocity-based training companies I would like to, but the gold standard is Gymaware. My athletes, to me, are the gold standard, so it only made sense to go with them.